Okay, so we're on Mishlei 17:2. And this is another pasuk that I used to include in my curriculum for high school. I did not teach it the last couple rounds, but I have the same worry of like, is this just going to be too easy? I don't know. We'll see. Okay. Eved maskil yimshol beven mevish uvesoch achim yachalok nachala. Who would like to try to translate this? And masculine is an adjective, I believe. I think that's the only way to read it. Anyone want to read or translate? Usually it's Isaiah or Ariel that step up to the plate.
I'll try.
Okay.
All right, so Evan Moskill, a servant that a servant which I guess uses his seichel.
Yeah. What's
Moskill
the English word? How would you say the English?
uses his wisdom.
Wisdom is a chacham. I would say an
Intellect. I don't know. Intelligence.
intelligent,
Okay, right, that's
right?
the word.
Yeah, an intelligent servant. Yimshol beven mevish.
Um, Yimshol ben Mavish. He will. Yimshol is what is that? It's like a mushal, right? Like he will
Uh, I don't think it's like a mushal. I think it's like a moshel.
oh
Umem
mushal. I don't
shalal
know what a
b'kol
mushal
v'dor.
is. Well.
Yeah, Isaiah, I saw you on mute. I don't know if your mic is broken, but I'm not hearing anything you say when you unmute.
Is it to rule?
Yes. Okay, we'll rule.
Right.
Rule. Beven mevish.
But with the children, yeah, and children from like embarrassment.
Okay, I mean you're kind of getting half of it. So
Yeah.
I wouldn't say bet is with.
Mavish from no.
Okay,
No.
so we'll rule. Anyone else want to venture a guess here?
Over.
Okay, good. We'll rule over a ben mevish. Okay, so mevish is the same word as busha,
Right.
which is
Embarrassment.
yeah. So this one is a little bit. I'm gonna go ahead and say ben mevish. Um, I don't know why I capitalized that. So I think there's two ways to understand this, and I don't think this is like an actual question. I think this is like a translation thing. Is it a shameful son, or actually, it's funny in English.
When you,
Yeah,
I would have thought it's like a easily embarrassed person, like
I
a
don't know if it's easily embarrassed. In other words, either let's say embarrassing son. Okay, let's start with that embarrassing son. Okay, maybe we will save this for a an analysis question. Okay, uvasoch achim yachlog nachala. And that's like pulling teeth tonight. Anyone else want to translate? Usually, you guys are like jumping at it.
I mean,
I'll
Ubatoch
say everyone's
Akam
tired
is
from slichos.
within
Yeah, what?
Ubatoch Akam isn't that like with his brothers?
Yeah. Anyone care to give a more specific thing of besoch than with? Because with is usually im, right? Betoch b'nei Israel.
Amongst
Yeah, amongst. Okay, and amongst brothers, yachalok nachala.
the then like the Nachla the land will split. No,
It's not
not.
land. You can have
I
nachala
don't
as
know.
land.
I don't know.
You
I
want
know
to
what
help
it
Ariel
is. I
out?
just don't know how to translate.
inheritance.
Say again, Isaiah.
Inheritance.
Yeah,
Right.
inheritance, right? Okay. And what is yachalok?
Split.
Yeah, he'll split. I'll say divide. Split is good actually. He'll split inheritance. Okay. So an intelligent servant, Evan Moskil, Yimshol will rule Beven Mevish, over a an embarrassing son. Actually, what I want to do, I want to actually just not say rule over, even though that's fine. I want to use a more general dominate. I think that's just more broad. A Ben Mevish, an embarrassing son, and amongst brothers he will split inheritance. Okay, so now we're going to go to our minimalist translators here. Sadion says Eved Hamaskil Zakai Limshol al Ben Hamevish. So he says the intelligent servant is worthy of ruling over a an embarrassing son. Sorry, the embarrassing son. Ubein ha'achim yischalik benachla, and he will divide the inheritance between brothers. Okay, it's unclear whether he's like what exactly he's doing to modify this. Okay, it's very, very similar. And the reason why I censored this part is I think Kafka, who translates this, gives a little bit of interpretation here. Oops, sorry, between brothers. Okay, Targum Ksuvim says Avda Suchlasana Yishtalet Bivra Mavahasana Uvenas Ache Nifle Yerutza. I think that's just a literal translation, and I just included it because it says Mavahasana is causing shame. Okay, so that's actually what I wanted to get to. So, yeah, hold on a second. I feel like there's another English word here. Embarrassing has the implication of he embarrasses someone else. I think there's can anyone think of another word that shows that, like, maybe shameful or embarrassing? Let's put it that way. Shameful or embarrassing. Okay, shameful meaning that, like, as an intrinsic quality, he is shameful, and like even if no one saw him, he would be like objectively shameful. Or embarrassing, he causes busha, he causes embarrassment to other people. Okay, so that is there. I'm just going to move these above. Okay, then we got 3 English translations to work with here. We've got Art Scroll that says an intelligent servant will rule over a shameful son and will share the inheritance among the brothers. Koren, there's no reference here. Koren says a wise servant shall control a son who acts shamefully and shall share the inheritance among the brethren. You know what, let's do? Yimshol will either be dominate, control, or rule over. Okay. Alter says a clever slave rules over a son who shames. Either he's taking the causing shame, and in the midst of brothers will share the inheritance. Okay, so I'm going to copy this into the chat so people can reference it. Okay, so now let us ask all the questions and problems that we can think of here. And for those who are new, remember, no answers at this point, just questions. Yeah, Isaiah.
So like the who is splitting the inheritance amongst the brothers?
Is there a possibility other than the servant?
The Ben Mavish. I mean, he's the son who's referenced in this pasuk. So like,
right,
think he'd
yeah,
be amongst his brothers.
I mean, I suppose you could say that, but that's, I think that would be the default assumption, is that the, like, in other words, the Ben Mavish is already getting inheritance. So I think the Chiddush, the new point is that the servant is going to divide inheritance. And I didn't see anyone who says that it's the son who gets who splits the inheritance. So I'm going to go ahead and say that reading is not plausible. Rifki?
Yeah, why do we use the characteristic of masculine instead of like any other type of wisdom?
What does I'm gonna go ahead and put this here, an Eved Maskil. Yeah, so what does Maskil mean in this context? Okay, why not any of Mishlei's other, like, intellectual virtues? Yeah, like, for example, wisdom, understanding, diligence. Yeah. Okay, Yair?
I just wanted to ask about, like, can't someone be intelligent and embarrassing? And more what I mean by that is, like, why are we contrasting intelligence to, like,
Okay, good
shameful or
question.
embarrassment? Like, I feel like you could contrast that, but like they're not directly against each other.
Okay,
Someone
good.
can be intelligent and embarrassing, or
Okay,
not
good.
intelligent and not embarrassing.
Okay, so I'm going to make this into 2 questions. One is a question on the pasuk as a whole from, like, a general Mishlei standpoint, is how are intelligence and embarrassing opposites. Okay. And then your second question was, can these quality actually, I'll just put these as 2 facets of the same question, the way that you asked it. Are these qualities mutually exclusive? Okay. Can't you have someone who is intelligent and embarrassing? Okay. I don't know why I'm thinking. I don't know. Anyone know who Diogenes is? Diogenes was like the gutter Plato, the gutter Socrates, like the guy who was like a philosopher, but like he would just like live this disheveled life and like live like an animal in the streets. I would say he's like probably intelligent but embarrassing. I don't know. That's just what I associate it to. Okay, Rifki?
Also, and when we say that he's gonna rule whatever, word we're gonna end up translating as,
Yeah.
is that we have to take that as like the household only, and then what does that actually mean if it is that?
What does yimshol? Okay, this is again rule. What did I say here? Dominate, control, or rule over mean in this context? Ooh, is this a Insomniac Yosef we have here? Yosef Levine joining from Israel? Okay. You don't have to answer that. Okay. Yeah, Avital or Yitzi.
Yeah, I was wondering, like in Jewish law, there's rules, there's like laws of inheritance. So in the second half of the pasuk, when we say besuch achim yachalok nachala, like how is the Eved getting inheritance? He's not a son, like he doesn't actually get it according to the law.
Maybe that's why Rav Kafik, when he translated Sadigo, wrote this part that I censored. So I'm gonna go ahead and like just reveal this here. So he adds im kasav lo rabo chelik min chasav. If the Rav like writes him into the inheritance. Okay, if the master writes him into the inheritance. Okay, so I'll put this as a question. I think it actually is rather easy inheritance wise that you can include other people in your inheritance. But I'll just say like by what mechanism does the Eved divide inheritance, I guess, or get a share in the inheritance, in this inheritance. Okay. Yeah. All right, Ariel.
Yeah, what's the second half of the pasuk adding here? Like, why is this necessary?
Okay, I mean, I feel like the. Okay,
well,
here's the question. Okay, in other words, like this. To answer your factual question, what the second half is adding is it's saying he's going to get money, right? And the first half is talking about his relationship to the son. But the question you can ask is, what is the unified idea in from the two halves, right? From the two halves.
Well, I'm asking more about the brothers. What's the significance of throwing in brothers in there? If he's gonna get the money, he's gonna get the money. I don't see why.
Okay, that's a good question. Also, yeah. So I think this question it deserves its own question, which is like what would we be lacking if we only had one half of the pasuk, right? Okay, and then the question is, what is implied by will divide inheritance amongst brothers?
And whose brothers?
Yeah. So again, similar to my question for my response to Isaiah is the facts here are that there is. Okay, I'm just gonna. Okay, well maybe this is a question here. Okay, what are the facts in this scenario? Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and answer this because I think that this is only one set of facts. But if someone wants to challenge that, then you have you can challenge it. The case here is, let's say you have a family where you have a father who has money, and he has, let's say, 4 sons, and one of the sons is shameful, the other ones are normal, and then you have an intelligent servant. And what this pasuk is saying is, you might think that the only guys who are going to get the inheritance is the brothers, but this is telling you that the intelligent servant will rule over the embarrassing son, whatever that means. But the second half is telling you that he will get a part in the inheritance, which is not supposed to happen.
Can I challenge that for a second?
Yeah, you can challenge that. Yeah.
Why, if he's a servant, why would he get? Why would it be split amongst the? Maybe this is a separate question within the facts that you're working with, but like, he's just a servant. Who cares if he's intelligent or not? Like,
okay, so you know what's funny, Ariel? This is like what I've been waiting for. This has never happened, where I think this is too obvious, and you think that like, no, how can this ever happen?
yeah, this is not obvious at all because
I think this is obvious. Right.
It's definitely not obvious because fine, you have one embarrassing son, you can have 3 other brothers.
Yeah.
So whatever, the inheritance will be split with just those brothers. Why throw in the servant in there? That doesn't make any sense.
Okay, all right, there you go. I'll add. Why would actually? I'm going to attach this to Yitzi's question. So, by what mechanism does he ever get a share in the inheritance, and why would a father do this? Right, he's just a servant. Yeah. Okay. After this plane goes over, then I'll call on Isaiah. You can probably hear the same plane on your side.
I do.
Okay. Yeah. All right, go ahead, Isaiah.
Okay, I have 2 questions.
Yeah.
One is, I guess they're related. So is the Ben is the Ben still getting inheritance? Is that getting taken over by the Eved? Right. And then related to that, like, is the Eved doing something just right now? Is he like, I know he's doing something smart, but is it good, or is it like doing something smart? But it sounds bad. It sounds like a little bit evil to me.
Yeah. Like okay. So is the Ben maybe still getting inheritance? Like, I guess getting a share of the inheritance, or is the Eved effectively replacing him? Okay. So for example, just to spell this out for those who like math, if the original scenario was a father with 4 sons, you'd expect each to get 25%, right? So according to this pasuk, is each party still getting 25%, but the Eved replaces the Eved, the Ben Mavish? Just gonna capitalize it again. Ugh, why does it do that? Mavish is not like a name that I've ever typed. Or do they now all get 20%, right? I.e. the 4 brothers plus the Eved. Okay, and then the second question is I'm gonna actually attach this to Yitzi's question also. Isaiah's second question, which is like, is there an element of sketchiness or like that's sketchiness or like injustice in the Eved, taking a cut of the inheritance?
Can I tack something onto what you said? Well, like, if it's the first scenario, the first one, the second scenario where they all get 20% now, like what would the function of the Ben Mavish be in that like case? It doesn't
right. Okay, good.
That just sounds like the Eved is like becoming part of the family or something like that.
Right. If it's the second way, why even mention the Ben Mavish? Right. So I also agree with you that I think it's the first way. Or not agree with you. I agree with the implication of your question. I think it's the first way. I think he replaces the Ben Mavish. Yeah. Okay, Rifki.
Okay, hold on. I'm just trying to remember because that was interesting. I think my question, let me know if this fits into what Isaiah was just asking.
Yeah.
But I was wondering, what are we learning? Like, is he making an active decision here, the Eved? Like, is it just that he is intelligent? Like, what are we supposed to gain from that? I wasn't sure if that was like included.
Yeah. Okay. So let's say here, I'm gonna actually let's see. Yeah, all right. I think this could span several questions here, but let's say, what exactly is the Eved doing beyond being intelligent, right? Yeah. Like, is he taking any action or set of actions? Yeah.
I also had another question, which again, I'm not sure if it's a question on its own or if it even should be a question. Yeah. But I'm curious, would this pasuk still stand if there was no Ben Mavish? Like, if there was just like a smart Eved, or does it dafka have to be that there's a son that's like?
Yeah. Okay. That is a good question. I also don't know how to ask it. So let me just say here, I'm going to add this here. What role do each of the parties play in the decision-making scenario? And then, like, I'm going to just say this as an example. For example, what would change if there was no Ben Mavish in the picture? Yeah. Okay. Avital and Yeti.
Yeah, we actually both had questions.
Okay.
Mine was, it's kind of related to what the question of what Yimshol means.
Yeah.
But generally, because we're defining Eved as a Ben Maskil, it would follow that Yimshol Ben Mavish is something positive. But generally, like saying that this person is controlling someone else or is their ruler isn't always meant to be like a positive description of something.
Right. Okay, so is there a positive or negative connotation to this type of rule? Yeah, it feels negative. I think that's what Isaiah was picking up on.
Yeah, I mean, it feels negative, but from context that you would think it's positive. That's
right. Yeah. Now, I'm just going to mention this, that negative is relative. In other words, it could be that it's negative only in the sense that this is not something that naturally happens, and so it's like unnatural that an Eved would dominate the son in this way. But yeah, I think it's a good question though.
Okay, and also, I was kind of wondering, I think it's similar to maybe Rifki's question before, but kind of in terms of the connection between the two halves of the pasuk.
Yeah.
Is the intelligent servant, is the first aspect where he's like dominating or controlling, just kind of causing the splitting of inheritance, or is that another aspect of his wisdom or intelligence? Are these separate or kind of positive, I guess?
Okay, that's a good question also. Okay, so is he taking any action or set of actions? Is I guess is the pasuk describing two acts or decisions on his part, i.e. ruling and dividing, or is it only one? Ruling and dividing is the beneficial outcome. That's what he gets as a result. Yeah. Okay. Next is my dad.
The word embarrassing bothers me.
Okay. Yeah. No one's asked about that yet, right? Yeah.
First of all, there's a whole range of behavior that can be considered embarrassing, and so dealing with a threshold here, if you go beyond this, I mean, the guy who walks out and he forgot to zip his fly up, that's embarrassing, but that's doesn't disqualify him for something that he deserves.
Right. Okay. So what does Ben Mavish? First of all, what does Ben Mavish mean in this context? Is it? And I'm just going to kind of repeat what I wrote in the translation here. Is it objectively shameful, even if nobody is actually ashamed by him, or does it mean that he is causing embarrassment to
constant, relentless?
What was that?
Constant and relentless embarrassment.
Yeah, right. So that he's causing embarrassment to a specific party, and then either way, this is the other part of your question. Either way, what is the threshold here? Here, right? Does it have to be constant and relentless? What if it's just a single, oopsie moment? Yeah, in other words, whatever quality we're describing, how much does he have to embody this in order for this result to happen? Yeah.
There's one other thing that, there's a whole range of bad behaviors people can engage in that might disqualify them for this inheritance.
Right.
Picked out embarrassment.
Yeah, right. Okay. Yeah, so that's another good one. Why focus on embarrassment out of all the bad qualities Shlomo could have chosen? Right. So for example, he could have said, foolish, lazy, wicked,
dishonest.
What was that? Dishonest. Yeah. Okay. Right. Yeah. Okay. That's a good question. And that's obviously going to probably relate to what Yair was asking about intelligence versus embarrassment. Those are the two opposites. By the way, just to, I just want to do a little test here. I believe this is a common Mishlei pairing. Okay. Which only strengthens the question. Let's just see here. Okay. Mishlei uses the word Mavish 6 times. You got Oger B'Kaitz ben Maskil, Nirda Makatir ben Mavish. This is another one I taught a lot in high school. One who gathers in the summer is an intelligent servant, but an embarrassing son. Sorry, not servant. An intelligent son, but an embarrassing son is fast asleep at the harvest. Then we've got Ashes Chayil Ateres Ba'ala. This is not exactly the same, but a woman of valor, however you want to define that, is a crown to her husband. But a shameful woman is like rot in his bones. Ratzon melech le'eved maskil ve'evraso tied mevish. The favor of a king is towards an intelligent servant, but his wrath will be, I think you have to say, towards a shameful one. And then we've got our pasuk. Then we've got 19. That one does not apply. Yeah. Oh, here's another one. Okay, yeah. So it's not all over the place, but it is pretty common. Okay. Avital or Yitzi?
Yeah, this is related to Avital's question about who's doing the dividing.
Yeah.
When the pasuk could have said "Uvitochachim like Yirash" or Yinachel, it
Right.
sounds like the pasuk is saying that he's the one who's doing the dividing, and like we're specifically attributing that to him. So the
Right.
question would be like, if that's true, why is it like why are we emphasizing the fact that he's the one? He's not only getting the inheritance, but he's the one who's dividing
Yeah.
the inheritance
Okay.
amongst the brothers. Why is that something that needs to
Oh,
be?
that's a good question. That might point away to a new idea. Okay. This my intuition meter just went wild when you said that. Okay, okay, let me write that down. Why is the division being ascribed to the Eved? Okay, why not say, I'm just gonna say, like, why not, either use a neutral term without a party, I guess without like ascribing it to one party. Like, for example, he will receive inheritance, right? It would not, among brothers. That would not say that he's doing the dividing, okay? Or ascribe it to the father who is, dishing it out, right? That would be the normal way to say it. Is like it's coming from him. Yeah, Rifki.
Yeah, so actually it's funny because I feel like this might be a little bit similar to what Yitzi said, but a different point. That I was wondering, is there anything to the fact that it says that he's specifically going to rule over the Ben Mavish, but then the second half, it includes the rest of the family?
Yeah.
Like, I would have assumed it would have been one or the other. Like, okay, like if you're specifically like going to be over the son, that's embarrassing, then you'll have some outcome with him. But it doesn't say the brothers. Also, it doesn't say he'll rule over the household or the brother.
Right. Yeah. So I'm going to go ahead and attach this to question number 11. What is implied by will divide inheritance among brothers? Why mention brothers at all if this is really about Eved Maskil versus Ben Mavish, And again, I know I said this earlier, but I'm going to type it again here, which is like, what would be lacking if we deleted the other brothers from the pasuk? Yeah, Isaiah?
What if we deleted the Ben Mavish? Like,
right.
What would Ben Moskill have to be able to do if there was no Ben Mavish?
Right.
Sometimes not.
So that is still a good question, and that I did acknowledge, but I do think though that like of the two halves, I think Eved Moskill Yimshel Beven Mavish sounds like that's really where the Chiddush comes from. That's like where the idea is being stated. So saying if we deleted that to me is like saying, what if this was a different pasuk? Whereas the second part, like in other words, to me, it seems like this is what makes it the pasuk, the first half. The second half, like you don't have to talk about the other brothers. You could just say that the Eved gets a share, So I feel like the question doesn't work both ways. Yeah, Isaiah?
To me, this is kind of a funny case of it sounds like kind of a contrived scenario. And like, is this really like such a common thing? And like, is this teaching us some general idea that we can learn, or is it specifically about Eveds when there's a bit? Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna ask that in the normal way that we do, but I'll add your editorializing here, which is that or your judgment, which is what is the practical application? Okay, the scenario described here seems rather narrow. Okay, so yeah, I agree, it does. Okay, there's one more question that is a standard question we always ask, but I think here it's very pressing.
What's the subject of the pasuk?
Yeah, so what's the subject is good. That is not the one I was thinking of, but that's definitely a question.
Practical takeaway?
Yeah, that I just wrote. What is the subject of the pasuk?
Who's the audience?
Yeah, now why is it a pressing question here?
Is it just slaves or avadim?
How many possibilities do you think there are? Anyone? Over, under?
When there we
I think there's just one.
You think there's just one?
I thought like 3. I don't know.
Okay, I think 4. Okay, let's see. We'll see what we got. Okay, who is the intended audience? Is it the Eved Maskil, the Ben Mavish? Rifki, who was your third?
I was thinking the brothers and the dad, I guess.
Okay, right. Yeah, the brothers or the dad. Yeah. Okay. I think those are all possibilities. And I did see the Mefarshim seemingly say that it's I don't know if I saw all of them, but yeah. Okay, that was a lot of questions. I feel like we got all of them. Let's just check one more time. We asked we didn't ask what an Eved is in this case. That's an important question also, right? So what is an Eved in this context, right? Is it a literal slave or a worker or like a broad, lower social class, something else? Yeah. And that's going to be very important for getting out of Isaiah's question about how narrow the pasuk is. Not that we need to get out of it, but if we do. All right, then Yimshol, we asked about Yimshol, but Ben Mevish. We asked about Ben Mevish, Uvasoch Achim Yachlog Nachla. You could ask what the Nachla is if it matters. I'll say it anyway. I feel like that's just a fact, but I think it's good to ask. Is there any significance to the use of the term Nachla? See, this is the type of question that, like, for inheritance, that the Malbim really cares about, right? So, for example, it could have said Yerusha or money or I don't know, something like that. Okay, now let me just take like 10 minutes to copy and paste all these questions into the chat. Okay, so and then we'll have our thinking minute. No, as predicted, it's going to take a lot of copying and pasting here because I also was a little bit more wordy in my questions than usual. Okay, but for those,
that's one more question.
Yeah.
So it sounds like there are like a few, parties within like the, there's like the father, and then there's like the Eved.
Yeah.
There's the shameful son, and then there could be like normal sons.
Right.
So will the intelligent Eved, and I guess like in the father's eyes, can the intelligent Eved be like equivalent to the normal sons or even greater than the normal sons? Because
okay, that's a good question. Yeah. Hold on, I'm just having a hard time getting these last things here. Hold on. It's 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and then I'm just going to type your last question, which is how far can the Eved go? Is he, does he just become equal to the normal sons, or can he surpass even them? And I will copy and paste this into the document, but there you go. Okay, wow. 18 questions. I think that's like a lot. Yeah, Rivki?
Yeah, sorry. One more question. I'm not sure if it'll actually be added after you just
okay, that's fine.
Everything. And I'm not sure this is what Isaiah was asking, but with Yitzi's question about the splitting, do we have to say that the Eved is being included, or could we say that he is splitting it? Like, meaning, does the betoch imply that he's included?
Okay, so I think, and I don't know, and I know the YouTube, I don't know, did we talk about him here? There's a guy who listens to my Mishlei shiurim on YouTube who like knows grammar, and he I don't know if he listens to the Monday night ones or all of them, and he always jumps in and corrects me when I make a grammatical mistake. So I want to say, and I know Yitzi also knows more grammar than I do, I think it would be yichalek. If he's just distributing it, then it would be yichalek, but I think yachalok implies that he like shares in it.
I think from Parshas Vayechi, Yechalek Shalal by Brachat Binyamin is referring to he will inherit it's Yechalek there.
Oh, that's interesting.
And it's talking about him taking a portion of the booty when he conquers.
Right.
And that's in the form of Yechalek. So
right.
I'm not sure.
Okay. So that there goes my distinction there. But Rivki, to answer your question, I do think I've seen enough Mefarshim who say that he's getting part of the inheritance that I'm comfortable saying that that's just how you read the word. Yeah. Anyone have anything to add, like questions wise or facts wise, not idea wise yet?
Yeah, can I just add something on that point? This isn't so much a grammatical point, but from the word uvetoch, I thought implies that, meaning if he's
that's what I was
amongst
asking.
brothers, that seems to imply
right. That makes sense.
One of the people getting the nachla.
I think it's a pretty good thing to rely on. Yeah. All right, that's good. Okay. Shmuel, you have an answer or question?
I have a question.
Sure.
I don't know if any of the questions y'all asked or you asked, Rabbi, applies to this question or not. But is this like a warning to the embarrassing child or to anyone that someone who's not part of the family, which typically that's how that works, is going to take a part of
so I
think,
what I mean? Yeah, I think that question hinges on who the intended audience is. If it's the Evan
Right.
Moskil, then this is an encouragement. If it's the Ben Mavish, then it's a warning. If it's the brothers, maybe it's also a warning. If it's the dad, then I think it could go multiple ways, you know? But I think that's a good way to ask the question. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
you.
so now let's take our thinking minute and think. And then as usual, we will I think whenever we have a large crowd, I think it's better to say only raise your hand for the beginning if you have like a fully fleshed out idea. I want to take out the fully fleshed ideas first before we do like half-baked ideas. All right, so let's take a minute to think. Okay, Yosef, you're up.
Yeah, sorry if anything I say is, dumb, then blame the delirium.
Okay.
But maybe it's saying like this, that I was thinking about the Yimshol part, and that seemed like the most strange part to me. But
yeah,
I think what I was thinking, maybe like the factual claim I'm going to make in my interpretation is that it's either some kind of in the household, whether he's going to be like managing the children as like a tutor, or like to unruly children or something, some idea like that. He's going to have some power over the children in some way, and that's going to be his success, and then assumedly at the end of his master's life he will inherit something. That's how I'm interpreting factually the pasuk.
okay.
So I was thinking that the idea here would be that an Eved who's normally, just from like, if you look from a societal standpoint, someone who's really isolated and has little to like no actual power. It's showing it's common with the themes of Mishlei in that it's showing how Seichel will allow him to progress within his respective role in where he is, right? Meaning that within the bias, he's if he denies the fact that he's an Eved, right, he's not going to be successful. But the fact that he recognizes his Avdas, and he therefore uses his Seichel to then work within the bias to promote things within the children, or to enhance the bias in some way, he then can succeed through the inheritance of his ball, right?
Okay,
and that it's showing that the Eved's employment of Seichel through both remaining in the household and finding and being opportunistic allows him to progress beyond what a normal Eved would normally be able to do, where he rises to the level of a family member by making himself significant in functional ways.
Okay, that's really good. So then we'll be able to progress beyond what the normal Eved can do. Okay, so that I'm glad we got that out of the way, because that's my idea also. So let me just I'm just gonna state my idea. I did not actually take into account the Yimshol part. I'm just gonna, this is from my old notes. This is like from even before you guys, Rifki and Avital in Mishlei era. So my notes said, do not allow your identity to limit or determine your future. Strive to see past the labels imposed upon you by society, as well as the labels you impose upon yourself. Consult your mind to determine your true strengths and weaknesses, and rationally assess your potential for success and failure. Even someone who bears the lowly label of servant can earn his stake in the family estate if he uses his intelligence. Whereas, I guess I have one more point. Whereas the identity of son will provide no guarantee if he isn't worthy in his father's eyes. So in other words, what this is talking about here is, I guess, and maybe to answer Shmuel's question, I don't know if this is like a warning and a pep talk simultaneously, but like the embarrassing son is kind of like coasting on his identity. Like, I'm the son. Like, of course I'm going to get inheritance, like that's what inheritance goes to. But I think it works out better for me if like, you say that he's going to get written out of the will, and the servant who like shows himself to be of value to the master or to the father, like is gonna get written into the will. I like what Yosef said, of like, if the servant just pretends he's not a servant, then he's gonna get fired, or not fired. I don't know what they do with servants. He's gonna get sold to another master, But if he's working within the realm of being a servant and taking advantage of that with his intelligence, like, and then maximizing that, then he'll like really get into the master's good graces and then transcend what normally happens to a servant. Person I'm thinking of here, anyone think of any examples of servants in fiction or in reality? Dobby, that's interesting. That's interesting. I feel like Dobby did not use enough intelligence, in my opinion, to really like warrant this. Not that he's dumb. I'm just like,
but
yeah.
Yeah,
he?
I mean,
Maybe I'm not remembering.
He was loyal. I mean, that was different, but yeah.
Loyal. J.K. Rowling, her loyalty. No, I think this is talking about like specifically intelligence, like using your your intelligence to maneuver your way to success. So no spoilers here, but those of you who have read East of Eden, the best servant character ever, Lee, really did this, and I'm not going to talk about what happens, but like it's not like the spoiler thing, but like he's successful, But the other person I think is Alfred in Batman, right? Because he well, first of all, he literally took the role of like taking over Master Wayne's upbringing, but like he clearly was set up. He's got a good setup, Alfred, right? Like he has all the money from like Wayne Manor, and like he basically has like run of the household. So those are examples that I think of. Yeah. Okay. And by the way, notice how what Yosef said by implication and what I'm saying explicitly, this applies not only to being a literal servant, this applies to anyone in a lowly position who ordinarily would be defined by their identity, or limited by their identity. So like, let's say, for example, you have people who have breakthroughs in all sorts of areas, who have like various disabilities, like they're blind or they're deaf or like they whatever, and society like discounts them, and they ignore that and then work within their limitations and then achieve prominence. And then you've got other good literal examples, like, and another example is like Frederick Douglass, like he got really successful, despite the fact that he was like a slave, Okay. Anything else on this approach? I know it's gonna be hard. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, Yosef.
What was I about to say? Oh yeah. Just in terms of the audience, I just wanted to finish off because I realized I didn't address that, but I think it's actually just what I was saying one before, is because I was just thinking that like it's not really a specific advice to anyone in Eved position, Ach position, or Baal position, but I think it's to all of them of the idea, just like conceptually the structure within any organization, right? The idea of choosing people in your organization who are qualified, right? And promoting the idea of making people who make themselves essential, and making them more integrated. And also, if you obviously the Eved it's the most direct for, but then especially I think the strongest message is to the Ach, who's it's telling him that his identity is really contingent and not essential, right? That it's most striking to him that he can lose out because of his status of Mavish, right? Of him being like lacking in some way and just relying on non-virtue, right? Just something a passive identity.
Right. Good.
Right.
Seemingly, so I'm saying even non-essential people like an Eved can prove essential, and even seemingly essential people, okay, like a son, can be proven non-essential. One more example, by the way, when you said organization, I thought of anyone know the example of this from Walt Disney, how he ran his organization? Because I think it's like a relatively famous one. And nowadays, maybe it's common. I don't think it's so common, but Walt Disney had this policy where anyone who worked in Disneyland could, step into his office and propose an idea. And like, I forgot what the idea was. There's some major idea that like the gardener like proposed, or like the janitor or something like that. And like, it ended up being really successful. But that was on Disney's part, that was Eze Hu Chacham Halom Mikol Adam, who's wise when he learns from everyone. And on the part of the people who like stepped up and took advantage of that, they were not seeing themselves solely by that identity. They were looking past that and saying, what can I contribute to the organization? Okay, good idea. It's possible that other people will have ideas that are similar to this. That was the trouble I encountered, that like there's a lot of like similar ideas here, but we'll go on now. Okay, Ariel. Oh, sorry, yeah, Abigail?
Just on that, I think like you just touched upon this, but
Yeah.
just that in terms of the audience, for like everyday people, whether it's like you're passing, you know, like certain custodians, or let's say you're on a bus all the time or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I think sometimes we kind of tend to, like, in our head, not exactly like a hierarchy, but like, oh, this is just a servant or whatever, but like
Right.
we don't always like recognize like the wisdom that these people could have, and that
Yeah.
they're not limited by whatever it is, let's say, that their title is. So just from other
Right.
people's perspectives of interacting with people, that maybe like you could either gain from them, or that like not everything like kind of meets the eye.
Right.
And you should be aware of that when you interact with
Okay, this is a good point. We should have this in mind when interacting with all people, because we're all prone to hierarchically limited judgments. Okay, yeah. I just want to, that brings up another thing I want to add here is the Malbim, and I didn't even read the Malbim's actual idea yet, but the Malbim's Derech Nister approach. Let's see, this is ChatGPT's translation, so I'm going to translate. Uvenimshal shahager hamaskil. When I saw that, I was like, ooh, the ger who is intelligent, nale al malas Yisrael hamevish, can ascend above the level of an Israelite who is shameful. Umi banav shel Sisra lamdu Torah barabim, or limdu Torah barabim. What the grandchildren of Sisera, who was the non-Jewish general, those grandchildren taught Torah to the masses. Umase Shmai v'Avtalion im hakohen gadol la'ed. Now, I know Shmai and Avtalion were converts. I don't know what the story is with Shmai and Avtalion and the Kohen Gadol. Anyone know what the story is? Okay, but even the fact that Shmai and Avtalion, they were converts, but they got to the level of the heads of the Sanhedrin. So I think that's another example where it's very easy for people to discount Gerim, but like they can ascend above born Jews. Okay, Ariel, you're up. Sorry for the delay.
Yeah. I want to take. I don't know if it's like a radical read.
Okay, I'm open for radical read.
But I want to say that maybe the pasuk's coming to teach you from implication, that this is kind of like how a father should run his household.
Okay. That's good. Advice for the father. Okay, good.
Okay, good. It's not that radical. Okay,
No.
I'm happy. Okay. Because like look, like I think that like if he had look, sometimes our children may not necessarily be like the greatest children to run your legacy in your house, especially back then, where like if you had farms and you needed to be run it like a specific business or whatever out of it, and like
Yeah.
the child's like not really in line with the father's plan,
Right.
but the servant is like and he's more in line with like with the household's objective, that's more important than bloodline,
Right.
and I'm getting this from actually like I don't know who I don't know if anyone's read this book called the Richest Man in Babylon, but like
No, that's a great title.
it's an amazing book. If you ever want to get into wealth building, read the book. Anyone on Zoom listening to this, read the book. Okay. Okay, but anyway, so like in the book, they like this guy, like he meets this guy who's inscribing stones, and like he comes to him like every year or two. He teaches him and whatever, and like at the end of like the journey that he had with them, he implemented all of his teachings, and he ended up hiring him to run his household and gave him all of his wealth instead of his kids, because the kids couldn't even run anything.
Right.
Yeah. And I think that like and I think the intelligence here just means like you're aware of the objective of the head of the household or the head of the company or whatever, and you're in line with that, and you want to help it grow. And I think it's interesting. Look, I don't know if it's really important or not important to say this, but maybe you could say that like the father may even cut out the shameful son, because maybe that's what it means, he will dominate it.
Yeah, that's what I think shot is.
Yeah, or it could mean that okay, look, because they're relatives, he's not gonna cut him out, but he will make the servant in charge of that household or whatever.
Right.
And the other sons, let's say, it's possible that they're not necessarily shameful, but they need more guidance or whatever. And maybe that's why he's not cutting them out. I don't know. I don't know if it's really relevant.
No, I hear
to
what
the
you're
main
saying.
idea.
Yeah. So when we do the Mefarshim, Rבינו Yona is what I recall as being closest to what you're saying, but I think it's a good idea though. I don't think it's so radical. I think it's good. Rifki, I saw you do the party sign. Also looks like your connection.
Yeah, wait, I'm just making sure you can hear me because my internet. Hold on 1 second. I'm gonna switch to my phone Wi-Fi. 1 second.
Okay. All right.
Okay, is it better now?
Yes, this is better.
Okay. So it's funny because I was really thinking very similarly to Ariel.
Okay.
So like that's really the basis of my idea.
Go ahead.
I think that it's really for the father and also the brothers because the end objective should always be about that outcome. I was just talking today with someone at work about this, that like sometimes, not sometimes, often, unfortunately, I feel like our egos get in the way. So instead of the end goal being, let's say if you're in Kirov, if the end goal is that you want more people to be involved in Judaism and to grow into themselves in that realm, then you shouldn't have to fight about like, okay, who's going to do this or who's going to do, you see this all the time in all organizations. And I think that that's for the father and the brothers in this circumstance, that the father shouldn't not hire a smart worker, a smart servant, because of this fear that like, oh no, like I'm gonna have to like make sure that like my sons don't, all these different things. So I think that that's advice for the father and then also for the sons to be like similar to what Ariel was saying, like, okay, like recognize your strengths. Like if you're not able or maybe at this point in your life you're not developed enough to do X, Y, and Z for the household, then you shouldn't be upset and be like, oh my God, like I'm such a horrible person. I don't want this person, because your goal should be the family, your goal should be the household and the success of it.
Okay, that's really good. And I think actually this fits in with the Evet also, because tell me if this, I think this fits in really nicely, is likewise the Evet, okay, who does not have ego invested in this role might be ideally suited for doing what's in the best interests of the organization, not for ego reasons, but because he can really contribute.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's really good. All right. I like, it is similar to Ariel's, but I think I think the focus on ego is an interesting starting point here. That shifts the flavor of the idea, if not like the implication. That's really good. I hate it. You know how sometimes you have a really good Mishlei example, but you're not sure if it's actually good or if you just really want to say it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got one of those.
Just say it. Just say it.
I'll say it. Okay. Best show on Netflix that I saw over the summer was Adolescence. It was the 4-episode thing about this kid who is like this teenage boy who like gets arrested for murdering this girl, and it's only 4 episodes, and then the chop in the show is like each episode is filmed in one take. So the Emmys were last night, and the kid got an Emmy, and he's the youngest male to ever get an Emmy. He was 14 when he did the part, and it was his first acting job. So in his speech, you could tell he was really humble, but like in his speech, he basically said like his message was like, he said, like when I was like 11, like I wanted to play football, and like one day I asked my parents like for acting lessons, and like I did it, and like 3 years later, like I didn't know I was going to be here, but like just goes to show you that like you can, you can do whatever you want, and like if you work hard at it, and something about like the lack of ego that you usually associate with like actors, it was like a refreshing thing. And like I was thinking about that with Rifki's idea specifically, not with my idea or Yosef's, even though it could technically apply. But yeah, watch Adolescence. It's a good. For only 4 episodes, you could binge the whole thing in one night. Okay, Isaiah.
All right. I think my idea is most similar to yours.
Okay.
But we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see, maybe not. But what I think this is saying is that maybe the Eved, the Ben Mavish could be like an in, if you're in a situation like the Eved is, where he can use this son who is viewed as like an embarrassment, as like an opportunity to gain favor with the family. Like for example, you teach him to not be an embarrassment. An embarrassment, a son who's an embarrassment is usually someone who, an Eved who's smart, has something to offer to, and if he's able to like help that son out, then he can become like, in the favor of the family. And then it's not exactly, maybe he'll end up like getting an inheritance just like the rest of the sons if they really appreciate it that much, like what he was able to do for them. Or maybe he'll end up like, maybe the son will appreciate him so much he'll like be a part of his household. Like many ways he could come out like with just kind of becoming part of the family, because like I think they'll view him as like, you know, he made the son like into a good person, and like that's like family does, you know. So I don't know if this would apply outside of that situation, but that's what I was thinking.
I think that is good. I guess that my question is going to be, and you know, I don't know if we need to answer this question. The question is like, this fits into the ideas that Joseph and I were saying, but also might have potential to have its own idea, like its own approach, like around it. So I don't know. Like right now, I see how it fits in, but there might be potential to develop it more than that. But yeah,
I guess in how you were saying it, I didn't see so much what the role that Ben Mavish played.
So for me, Ben Mavish was essential, because to me, the idea is, the whole idea of the pasuk is that people define their opportunities and limitations based on the default role that they have. And the Ben, and this is really answering your question about how the Ben Mavish and the Eved Maskil are opposites. It's not that they're opposites. It's that in the pasuk, the Eved Maskil is not letting his social status determine his limits, and the Ben Mavish is falling back and taking security in his status. So the Ben Mavish is making the mistake that the Eved Maskil is like not making, you know. So it's exact opposites.
Right, I see.
Whereas the way you're saying it, see, just to contrast it, I'm saying that the Ben Mavish and the Eved Maskil are two different decisions. You're saying that the Ben Mavish is part of the facts, and the real decision is the Eved Maskil. Yeah, right. So I think those are both good ways to go. Okay, Shmuel.
Yeah, I want to combine your idea, Yosef's idea, and Ariel's idea.
Okay, I'll put you right in the middle here.
All three of your ideas also, Rabbi. You've had a few examples you've used, but I want to approach this from a business standpoint. And I want to use Genghis Khan or Genghis Khan.
Arguably the most successful business in the world.
By the way, incredible character, awful character. What he invented, what he founded in his army was the promotion by merit system. Basically, if you deserved it, you're going to get promoted. And that's why he had such a successful army, or one of the reasons was that, you know, people who were actually qualified to be generals, not because their parents were, you know, that's why they were generals. You succeeded in battle and you showed acumen in strategy, then, you know, aside from his brutality. So I think you could apply that to this as well, where the Eved just simply outworks everyone. He's really good at what he does. You know, he goes from Eved and he just to Eved Maskil. You know what I mean? And it's not an actual. I'm taking the approach that it's not actual inheritance, or it is. And he's just making so much money from the patriarch, you know, that it outweighs, right? And anyways, you know, the idiot son isn't going to get as much,
right?
The embarrassing son. So then, really indirectly, the Eved is getting more of the inheritance, or taking that share.
Right. So in other words, not literal inheritance. But he makes so much money from the patriarch that it outweighs the inheritance, and it's as if he got that as a you know, as an inheritance. Factually, by the way, just I think this is not a critique of your idea, but if Shlomo was talking about an actual Eved, then he doesn't actually get, like, you. Maybe this is what Yitzi was asking about earlier with the facts, that like an Eved doesn't really have his own property. You know, so like you know, but I think you could analogously, like, or in our market nowadays, you know, you can be in an Eved type position and you can actually make money. So like, I think it's fine.
Right, and Eved Ivri doesn't. I don't even know. Does he even get inheritance at all?
I mean, he would be an Eved Ivri would be a candidate for being in this position because he technically is going to go back to being free, but like insofar as he's working in the household, if he proves himself as useful, then maybe he can get you know, the money. But yeah, your idea stands on its own. I don't want to nitpick on this point.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Nice. Yeah. Let me just think about that and see if there is anything I want to add. Right. So I think that's an interesting thing also, right? Is that I'm trying to think of an example of this. I feel like there are, hold on. It's just reminding me of moves that certain actors made in terms of negotiating their contract, where like other actors, you know, only signed up for the project and then like got a certain salary from it, and then other actors recognized how essential they were to the project and negotiated where they will get like a certain percentage in perpetuity from everything. And like they end up like just making like way more money for the successful movies than the people who like wanted to get the lump sum. Not the same thing, but similar to the way you're interpreting the inheritance. It's like this Eved is gaining so much from his position that it's almost better than an inheritance in some ways. And you could even expand it, like not just monetarily, but like there are people who will you know, work and getting the experience or getting the fame or the reputation or whatever from that work experience in some ways is better than like getting the actual inheritance. So a lot of application you could take here. Okay, I believe my dad
a college degree.
Yeah.
It's like a college degree. What's more valuable than a college degree? Any experience in any field.
Yeah, right.
Period.
Yep. Okay, next is my dad.
So you'll tell me if I'm using this term correctly.
Yeah.
This verse sounds like it's a setup for a Hava Amina.
Okay, yeah, right.
So let's say this verse wasn't in Mishlei at all. We don't have the content of it. What would be the consequences of circumstances? And you know, so I'm having trouble thinking of them. One of the things that comes to mind is your inheritance. You know, death is the end of your life, but not the end of your influence.
Right.
And you're dealing with a situation where what the person who passed away wanted is not going to be achieved. It's going to be blocked by embarrassing people and ignorant people. And I know from life's experience that a lot of ugly things take place around the death of someone when it comes to inheritance.
Right.
So that's as far as I got with the idea. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. So I hear what you're saying. I think you're using the term right. Havamina is the incorrect assumption we make without this pasuk is that the inheritance would end up, you know, as the benefactor, you know, hopes for, but like the pasuk is showing us that you know, it often doesn't work out that way. And that's why you need to make sure you're not leaving your inheritance to an embarrassing son, and you may even want to entrust it to a non, you know, biological, you know, recipient. You know, yeah, that's similar to who said this. Similar to I've heard this in the Ariel and Rifki pairing here. Yeah. Okay. Avital or Yitzi or Yitzi.
Yeah. So this is building on what Mr. Shniway said.
Yeah.
I heard from Rabbi Rosenzweig Sr. that inheritance isn't just about the money, but it's about the legacy of like who's carrying it on, and working within that framework. This is both talking to the father, the Eved, and the son, meaning when the father is at the point when he's deciding who's getting inheritance, who's going to be the one to carry out his legacy, he's going to look for the person who most embodies the things that he values and can perpetuate his legacy in the best possible way. Right. And therefore, not only is the Eved, who's a maskil, going to be among the brothers, but he's going to be the one who's going to be Yachaluk Nachal.
Okay, good. I was hoping you'd pick up on the thing that you know. Yeah.
Because because he's the one who's kind of taking the lead, not just in terms of the money stuff, but in terms of the father's legacy.
Okay,
So,
good.
Yeah,
Yeah, and really, really spearheading the next chapter in the father's legacy. Okay, good. That when I said, "Ooh, that's exciting," that was what I was thinking. That you were. That was what I was hoping you would go in that direction. Okay, that's good.
Yeah, and also
nice.
just one other thing, like the part of the, I guess, Mishlei idea, like connecting to other psukim we've done.
Yeah.
Is that from the person acting in a Mishlaic way, like being the maskil,
yeah.
it comes out naturally that he'll end up getting be more financially secure, because people will want to entrust him to carry out their legacy if they're a person who they respect and they think is a good person to take the lead on that mission, whatever it may be.
Right. So this Evan may even earn the trust of more people for this reason once they see him in this role here. Yeah. Okay, nice. I have actually a meta idea, which I'm sorry I don't have on the screen. This is from our last year's new friend, Rבינו Yitzchak, Sheshis ben Yitzchak Gerondi. So in his intro, he says this idea. I might have written about this in What I'm Thinking About This Morning post, but this is of relevance to everyone in this year. Okay, so he says that he's going to come up with new ideas. Okay, and then he asks a question. Give me 1 second here. Oh, he says like this. Omer, ki inenu rachok, she's bar bizman me'azmanim, ma'amar echad b'chachma mi'pia katanim, then ne'elam me'ene harishonim. It's not improbable that in some time period, there will be a statement of wisdom from the mouths of katanim, of people who are inferior, which was hidden from the eyes of the rishonim. V'im hayu b'chachma sarim usganim, and even though these people, these rishonim, are great, they're literally princes and chiefs in chachma. Kasher yesh zahav rav pininim utzfunim matmonim nimsaim v'niglim leitim mizmanim v'asher lo yigeh b'chipusam u'michkrehem v'rabim yishoshtu levakesh lo yimsu chelik mehem. Sorry, he's being very poetic here, but in other words, these people have a lot of treasures, but maybe there will a portion of their treasures will not be found. Ki af. Ki libos b'nei adam yisod echad lahem u'musar haseichel. Or okay, I think he's going really poetic here. The point he's making. I'm just gonna see if there's anything else to read here. Okay, this is way too poetic. I forgot how poetic it was. I'm going to struggle to translate. But basically, the point he's making is he's saying there have been a lot of commentaries on Mishlei by a lot of great chachamim, and they had a lot of great ideas. But don't think that means that they found all the ideas. You could be a katan, you could be like us in this shiur tonight, and find ideas that were hidden from the eyes of the Rishonim, and that's a meta application of the idea that that I was trying to say here about how don't view yourself as just because you're not a Rishon or a Mefaresh, don't think that you can't come up with ideas. Okay, let's look at just a few commentaries and see what we come up with here. Okay, I did not translate Masuda's David yet. This might be what we've already had. Beven Mevish, so an embarrassing son. Beben Adon, the son of the master, Asher hu mali midivre busha, who is filled with shameful matters. So it sounds like he's saying that it's not an emphasis on embarrassing his father. It's like he's shameful, like he's a degenerate. Yachlog nachla, he will divide inheritance. Eved hazeh, this servant, yikach chelek nachla b'soch achim, will take a portion of inheritance among brothers, as if he is one of them. Sorry, as if he is one of them. Okay, I don't see a new idea here. I think this is explaining the facts, and I think this could fit with many of our ideas. So unless anyone sees something, then I'm going to move on. I think this is just saying the facts here. Unless there's an idea of as if he is one of them. I think that's just describing, though, the results, though. Normally a servant doesn't get the... Yeah, I don't think there's any new idea. Okay, Rבינו Yona is similar to Ariel. Okay, and those who took the approach that this is talking to the father. So Bala Shabeach Malas Haseichel. This is coming to praise the virtue of intelligence. Ulahaz here, he's going to give two interpretations here. I'm going to number them. Ulahaz here ha'av, and to warn the father, lahoros beno derech haseichel, to instruct his son in the path of intelligence. And without this, there is no advantage in what he bequeathed to him. Bequeaths to him. Okay, fine. Because an intelligent servant will rule over a shameful son, and among brothers he will divide inheritance. Okay, we'll go back and analyze it in a second. Am I spelling what's the mistake here? Bequeath. Is that not how you spell bequeath?
I'm not sure, but I was thinking about it in terms of anagrams, looking at it.
Yeah, it's a good anagram word. He will leave for him.
Bequeaths doesn't have an es, just an s.
Oh, okay. He will bequeath him. Bequeath him. Okay. All right. Second interpretation. V'tachin, it's possible that this is coming to teach the father, to warn the father, lahoros es banav b'chayav, to teach his son during his own lifetime, lahaskil b'malachto, to be intelligent in his work, v'lios charotz, and to be diligent. So this is like what Shmuel was saying. My only objection to Shmuel's idea was Shmuel put it in terms of he is hardworking, like he works harder than everyone else. And to me, I would not naturally interpret maskil that way, because maskil to me seems like intelligence. But here, Rבינו Yona is interpreting it the way that Shmuel is, which is diligence and hard work. And to be diligent. And not say about him, that after his death, when he gets the inheritance, Yilmad Seichel v'Charitus. Then he will learn intelligence and diligence. Kodem higio lahaskil. I don't know if there's a corrupt text there, but I think the way you should translate this is rather he should preemptively teach him intelligence. Okay, so let's just summarize here. Okay, the summary here is there are two mistakes the father might make. One is assuming that is neglecting to teach his son the path of intelligence in general, okay, which will result in him squandering or losing the inheritance to an intelligent servant. And then two is neglecting to teach his son diligence and intelligence in this specific work, banking on the fact that he'll learn it on the job. Okay. So I think he might be picking up on what Isaiah was picking up on. I think in this, how would you describe the role of the intelligent servant in the way Rבינו Yona is learning this? Yeah, Avital?
No, I had a different comment, but
okay. Yeah, how do you think the intelligent servant is being depicted here? He only mentions him in the first interpretation.
It sounds more like a threat.
Yeah, right. He's basically saying, like, either you're a rich father, right? So you're going to die, and if you don't teach your son how to intelligently manage money, then some other lowly person is going to swoop in and take it. And I'm not saying steal it, but like somehow like take over or whatever. So there's no point in giving your son an inheritance if he can't manage it. And we know that this happened to a lot. Ariel maybe can quote examples of this. A lot of the like tycoons in American history, like they were very intelligent. I forgot when with the Rockefellers. When did was it the third generation that like it all went to pieces? Do you know?
Wait, do you mean the Vanderbilts?
Yeah, was that who? Oh, was that the biography you were reading or the letters?
When you say went into pieces, what do you mean?
Like one of the, I mean, this happened with several of them, I think, but like that there's the guy who made all the money, but then like his kids and grandkids just like partied all the time and like
Oh
they
no,
just
yeah,
lost the whole
no,
fortune.
that wasn't the Rockefellers. That was the Vanderbilts.
Yeah.
Yeah. They
Okay.
Rockefeller's built generational wealth. Vanderbilt spent it all.
Okay, yeah. I knew there was one of those big names. Yeah, right. So I think that was what Isaiah was picking up on. Okay, yeah, Avital, you had a separate idea?
Well, it was kind of a question in terms of Rבינו Yona's approach.
Yeah.
Because meaning I feel like it's clear, like the pasuk is clear about there being other sons. So it seems like, I don't know, to take the route that like this father was like neglectful about his children, like then I would think, okay, he has a son and that son is like a mistake, or like his kids are just mistakes, and then other people have to like come in and do all these things. But I feel like it's a little, or at least I don't understand exactly the like take he's doing with this, because it seems that there's other sons that worked out well.
Yeah, it does feel like the other sons are an afterthought in this pasuk according to him. And let's just look at the pasukim, the surrounding pasukim, and see if there's anything that might be making him say this. I think maybe where he's getting it from is the end of chapter 16. I think also talked about inheritance. Or no, talk about dividing. No, that's the lottery. Yeah, I'm not sure where Rבינו Yona is getting it from. It's a valid question on Rבינו Yona. I also think it's like he's not taking into account all the elements of the pasuk. Interesting. Okay, let's look at the Meiri. Okay, yeah, Rivki?
Yeah, I also had a question on Rבינו Yona.
Sure.
It could be I'm just not understanding, like I got confused, but isn't it better? Because it sounds like he's saying, make sure you teach your sons, because you don't want someone else to take the stuff that's supposed to be for them, right? That's okay. So my question is then all the things we're saying seems to combat that, because we're saying like it's better to have someone intelligent and smart rather than genetic. That's even if you do teach them and they still are not good, you can only do so much. Because it just sounds like the approach is saying like it's the best thing and the only thing to really do is teach your sons to make sure that they are able to take it. But isn't the bottom line that it should just be whoever is the best for the job?
Can I respond to that?
So I don't know, because I do still think that he's working with the premise that okay, let me back up. The way we were taking it is that the father is going to deliberately choose to share the inheritance with the intelligent servant. But the Rבינו Yona is not taking it that way. He seems to be saying that this intelligent servant guy is going to be someone who swoops in and takes over, not by force, but like against the wishes of the father. Like, so maybe an example of this would be like, and I was saying, I don't want to use this as an example, but he is a bad guy. But Yeravam ben Nevat. Yeravam ben Nevat was not a servant, but he was an advisor to Shlomo HaMelech, I believe. And then what happened was Shlomo did not raise his son Rechavam to follow in his chachma, and then Rechavam made stupid decisions and then lost the kingship. And then Yeravam, who was a deserving servant, an intelligent servant, got the kingship. So like, I think that's the kind of scenario that we're talking about here.
Okay, so it's just a different premise,
right?
Yeah, that's what I was.
Yeah, or another example. It's not really a good example because he kind of was his own shameful son in this case. Like, I'm sure there are cases. I'll just make up a case. I'm sure there are cases where you have like a CEO who himself is good at managing stuff, and his son is poised to take over, but everyone on the board knows that the son is not capable of the job, so they like use their board power and like override the will of the founder, and like they give it to someone else who's like more capable, something like that, So it's like that's like a nefarious character there. Yeah. Okay. Let's do the Meiri, because I forgot what he wrote for the Nigle. Oh yeah, this is good. Okay, and I did not vet this translation. This is a ChatGPT translation, so I'm going to go ahead and translate. He says, "Hey, Arahamonis." This is just a regular piece of advice. Shlo livtoch biyacha zulaso. No, this is an interesting variant on my interpretation. Not to take security in your relationship to someone else. Ki kol yachas zulaso be'ein yachas atzmo davar batel. This is a great proverb. Any relation to another which is not a relation to yourself is null. How do they translate it? That here, all status, this thing's status. All status apart from one's own is null. That's actually very much the way that I was saying the idea. Okay, but he quotes a Gemara that I actually quoted in what I'm thinking about this morning post. This is a good Gemara. Okay, Amru Chachamim Zal, Re'ib Nachos Nun Gimel Amadal, Amr Le Refreda. So they told Refreda, Rav Ploni dehava bar bre derav avtilas dehu asiri lerebi Eliezer ben Azariah dehu asiri laazara kai babava. Okay, so picture the case here. Okay, they're sitting in the base midrash, and this guy, Rav Ploni, points out to Rav Preda. He says, "Oh, look over there. There's a guy who is the son of Rav Avtilas, who I guess was a big prominent guy, who's a 10th generation descendant from Eliezer, should be Eliezer ben Azariah, who's a 10th generation from Ezra HaSofer, okay? And he's standing in the gate. So then here's what he said, Amar, so he said to him, My kulehai, what's with all this? I bar Urian v'lo bar Abahan, yai. If he is a Ben Torah, but he's not a Ben Yichus, he doesn't have like a good lineage, that's beautiful. Ibar Urian Ubar Avahan, yai v'yai. If he is a Ben Torah and he has Yichus, that's even more beautiful. Ibar Avahan v'lo bar Urian, but if he has Yichus, but he's not a Ben Torah, Isha Tichle, may he be burned in the fire, like may fire consume him, So the idea there, yeah, it's an extreme statement. The idea there is that if you got a guy who's got a reputation for greatness simply because of his Yichus, but he's not actually a real Talmid Chacham, so then he's worthless, or worse than worthless. He's a trap, because people will like think him because he's just like the son of a prominent rabbi. Okay. You should not trust in the wealth of your father. Oh, wow, this is advice to the son. Don't trust in the wealth of your father or in the wealth of your other benefactors. Because this is kind of like Rבינו Yona said, that wealth without intelligence and discipline is something that just immediately will vanish. Amru Chachmei Musar, Al tithalal ba'osher yechile v'yachsar. Rak behaskel v'das umusar. Do not trust, like the Chachmei Musar said, do not trust in wealth, which will vanish and diminish, but rather in intelligence and knowledge and musar. Right, that's the real investment, is investing in your mind, because that doesn't go away unless you destroy it. This is what the pasuk means. Haben hapachus asher yivayish yoldav. The degenerate son who shames his parents. Even among good sons. Oh, interesting. That's a different reading. Once he becomes intelligent to divide inheritance with them, he can profit and succeed with them until in the end he becomes someone who takes a share in the money. Okay, so in other words, how is he reading the pasuk? This is an interesting reading. It's in that last part.
He's reading it as if the servant is conniving, no?
I think not. Actually, hold on. Is this a bad translation here? Hold on. Evan Moskil, Yimshal Bevin, maybe Shrutzal, Ben Apakos, I'll show you. Oh, no, you're right. Never mind. Sorry. He is, yeah, this is not a unique reading. He is conniving, but he's, I think this is really, maybe this is where I got my idea. That basically saying, don't trust in your status. If you're an Evid, you can transcend your status. And if you're a son, you can't, then it's not a guarantee. All right, so I think that's my idea. But he's applying to other areas like Torah also. Okay, but what I wanted to get to is this Derech Nister. Okay, so for those who have not been here for the Derech Nister, so this is Meiri. He does this on every pasuk, or almost every pasuk. He interprets the pasuk. So the nigla, the open exoteric meaning, is applying it to decision making and material success. But then he applies it to the internal world of the human being, okay, and intellectual success. And he speaks in code, okay. Derech Nister yadua ki haben hu ikar bais. It is known that the son is the mainstay of the household. V'ha'eved ba'achar kain, but the servant comes afterwards. V'chein ha'inin b'melech hazaki, and so too with the old king. This is a metaphor. Shu haben habachor nolad imo. Shu haben habachor nolad imo. That he is the firstborn son who is born with him. The hayetzer hatov lo higia ad ben shalosh esrei shana, but the yetzer tov does not arrive until the age of 13. Uba mitchilaso ke'eved roses lifnei adonav, and he comes from the beginning like a servant who is trembling before his master. V'kasher hu maskil misgaber ma'at ma'at, but when he is intelligent, he can gain the upper hand little by little, until he can overpower it and subdue it, but not kill it entirely. But he can divide it with the other members of his army. Shehim Echav ubnei imo, who are his brothers and the sons of his mother. Okay, to attach themselves to their inheritance according to what is necessary. Okay, so we got to decode this, but this is like a internal idea here. So let's get the characters here. Okay, so he's saying there's the wise servant. There's the shameful son. There's the other brothers, and then there's the inheritance, and then there's the household. The household. Household. Okay. So in the interest of time, I'm just going to fill this in and you guys can say the idea. The household is the human organism, okay, as a whole. The wise servant is the intellect. That's the Yetzer HaTov, who enters the house, after the fact, and trembles before the master. Okay. Let me make this a little bit smaller. Okay. Oh, there's the father also, right? So the master, hold on a second here. He's not really doing the master here. I mean, the shameful son, though, he's saying is the psyche, the Yetzer Hara, okay, who dominates the house as the firstborn, okay, and comes before the servant. Other brothers are, and this I'm getting more from other Meiris. The other brothers are the other bodily faculties, okay, and the inheritance is the I guess the goods of the physical world. Okay, so what is the main idea here, according to the Meiri? Let's see if we could crack the code. See, this is the Meiri and Derek Nisser. It's like a little riddle that's in allegory form, and you have to like put together the ideas, but you have to keep in mind like the ideas from the from the pasuk itself. And the main idea here is going to be in the end. The first part was just setting the stage. Actually, I'll make it even easier. Yeah, Avital?
Yeah, just thinking that the Evet or the Seichel comes later, and its job is to overcome like the Ben who's like a Mivayesh. And then through that, it like gains control over the mind and over the person's faculty. It is having the decision maker, and then it gets the benefits from being a good decision maker rather than either lazy or not as good.
Okay, very good. I'm only going to enhance it by just combining it with Yosef's idea, okay, which is like this, is oh, sorry, hold on a second here, is the intellect cannot rule the body by force, okay? It's weak, it's late to the party, okay? And the other members are more powerful, okay? So what do? How does he gain influence? Little by little, he rules over the Yetzer Hara, okay? And what's Mishlei's method of the Seichel gaining dominance over the Yetzer Hara? It says he doesn't kill it, he doesn't destroy it entirely. What's Mishlei's whole approach to like the emotions?
Kind of like putting things in perspective that it's good for you, sort of.
Okay, a little bit more than that. You're right, but like practically, like what's going to get the Yetzer Hara on board with the intellect?
Showing how it's also in his best.
Exactly. By showing the Yetzer Hara that you can get better and more pleasures if you listen to me, right? Then gradually the Yetzer Hara and the other faculties rely on the intelligent on the Yetzer HaTov, okay? On the Yetzer HaTov, because they benefit, okay? And in the end, the Yetzer HaTov can partake of these pleasures as well in moderation. That's what he means at the end by according to what is necessary. Okay, so this is like a little microcosm of, and this is what I love about the Meiri's Derech Nisser, right? We said that Yosef said that that the intelligent servant cannot just barge into a household and then just act like the master. He has to recognize, I am a servant. I have to succeed within my limitations as a servant and slowly gain an influence over the household. So too, your Yetzer HaTov, you cannot overpower your emotions with your intellect. What you have to do is you have to use your intellect and show your emotions that they will get the best satisfaction if they listen to your mind. and then gradually gain influence and provide what the emotions want, which is pleasure and kavod and wealth and honor and all this other stuff, and then you gradually take over, and now your emotions are on board with listening to your intellect, and your intellect can partake of the pleasure as well. So it's like a nice little like microcosm of how Mishlei operates, nice little idea there. Yeah. Rivki?
No, it's not related at all. I just wanted to say something before we end about what I was thinking about, that just like this whole pasuk really reminds me of like that whole like trope within Chumash about like just inheritance and how you don't need to be within like I guess a family to get that position. So even like Moshe and Yehoshua, like literally right now, like it's not that Moshe's sons are taking us into Israel, but it was Yehoshua because he really merited the position.
Right, that's a good point. And I think Rabbi Jonathan Sachs always makes the point about how it's always like not the brother who you think who inherits everything, right? Like it's usually the firstborn who loses the inheritance, and who the more qualified one who actually gets the job. Yeah, that's good. I want to actually just leave off with one. I'm going to review and then leave off with one teshuvah idea that I just got. Okay, so our ideas here are, let's go back to our review. So we had Yosef's idea. Oh man, a lot of clusters here. Yosef's idea was what we just said, which is that the Eved cannot just barge in and try to rule. He has to use his Eved status to gain favor in the master's eyes, and then he can maneuver himself into a position where he is essential and the master wants to give him the money. And I interpreted that to mean that you should, like the Meiri actually, I'm just going to write this here for future reference, me/Meiri, is that don't trust in your status for good or for bad. Okay, right? So the Eved should not view himself as limited by his Eved status. He should try to transcend it and prove himself worthy, and then he'll actually get the results. The shameful son shouldn't rely on his status, like, oh, I'm the son, I'm going to get the inheritance. And then Isaiah interpreted the facts of the pasuk as a way that he can use the ben Meimish as an in to get into the family and to do something that the father actually values. Okay, then we had this cluster, Ariel, Rivki, and my dad, which is really more advice for the father on how to run the household, or the brothers, which is basically, Ariel said that you really want to preserve your legacy, and you have to think intelligently. Don't just give it to your son because it's your son. Give it to whoever's going to run your legacy the best, and that might be the Eved. And Rivki said people have to keep in mind the goal of the institution and not let their egos get in the way. So the father can't let his ego get in the way and say, well, it's my son, or the brothers can't say, well, I'm the son, I'm going to get it. And the Eved can't say, well, I'm just an Eved, what do I have? You should really work towards the institution or the organization or the values, and that's going to make you most prized, and you're going to have the best shot at getting the inheritance. And my dad also added to that same point. Shmuel was saying how there is a natural, like, what's the thing I'm thinking of? A natural, like, when people see a meritocracy in action, then they buy into that, and because it works, whatever works. And so the Eved can actually like force a meritocracy by just proving that he has merit, even if that's not how it's set up, and he'll be able to partake of that inheritance. Rבינו Yona was warning the father to not rely on the fact that his son will automatically make intelligent decisions. No, you have to train your son to do that, or that he'll learn on the job. No, you got to teach him and set him up for success. That was one of the smart things that the Egyptians did. Anyone know what the system was? How they passed on the position of Paro? Very smart for stability. They had co-regents. So in most monarchies, the father reigns, and then when he dies, the son takes over. But in Egypt, I don't know if this is all of Egypt or which kingdom, the father would basically start the son ruling as co-regent with him during his lifetime, which would both solidify, like, prevent there being a coup, because you're not leaving any space in between the monarchs, and you're also training your son on the job, not just leaving it to the end, and like that ensures stability. You mess it up when you have incest and you think that that's the only way to like perpetuate the line, and then you mess up and you get people who are Ben Mavish in many other ways. But yeah. Okay, and then the last idea was the Meiri, which is how to rule over the household of the self, is by getting your emotions on board with your intellect, by having your intellect show your emotions that you could satisfy them the most. So I think this is an idea in teshuvah, okay? The idea in teshuvah is that you're not going to do teshuvah by force. Okay, you cannot just force your way into saying like, well, it's bad to do this chait and I got to stop. Like, no, you have to show your emotions how to get the same satisfaction that they were getting through chait in a way that is mutter or that is good. Or let's say you're stuck in chait. Let's say you're addicted to a certain chait, right? So, and you can't break it. So show how, use your emotions, your mind to show how you could get more enjoyment if you curtail or limit the pleasure of the chait in a way that, like, anything to give your mind an edge, where you're using your mind to like appeal to the value system of the Yetzer Hara, and then like, you know, and then go on. Like let's take an innocent example, right? Like let's say a person is addicted to wine, right? And let's say they have wine with every meal, right? So if you just try to like stop, that's not going to work, right? And let's say you just can't do it by force, right? So maybe if you tell yourself, I am going, instead of spending all this money on daily bottles of wine, I'm going to buy a really nice bottle for Shabbos, okay? And I'll have a greater enjoyment, both because of the quality and because I'm waiting all week to have it, and the anticipation is going to make it better. So you don't break the addiction, but you harness it in a way that is in moderation, and that is in the context of some like mitzvah or in the context of some other thing, you know, and then you work it out so that you actually like are, your emotions are on board with your mind. Now, easier said than done. Obviously, there are a lot of different chataim that are pleasurable in different ways, but like, I think this might be a path to teshuvah that might be usable. And this doesn't have to be done in all in one season. Remember, you know, hopefully this will not be your last year, and better to take a small step this year than to take a large step and then undo it all in the next month, you know? So that's my advice for teshuvah during this season. Okay, small steps. Yeah. Okay, that was good. So next Monday, Erev Rosh Hashanah? Wow. Okay. So no Mishlei next Monday. But hopefully you employ Mishleic thinking in preparation for Rosh Hashanah. And then Bli Neder, the week after that should be fine, because the week after is not any special, it's essentially teshuvah, but you know, should be fine. Okay. Thanks for coming. And if I don't see you, then have a ksiva. Wait, do we say ksiva v'chsima tova? Whatever people say, shna tova, whatever, you know. Yeah. Okay. All right. See ya.
Thank you.
Tivach v'chatima tova. Take care, Rabbi.
You too.